difficulties this week. But hello and welcome to episode 6 of Laughing into the Void. I'm your host Tom, and as always, co-hosting with me is the lovely Rosalind Paris. You can watch our
Hi.
previous. Always, every single time.
Every time I fuck you up.
Every time. Me and Brooks have a similar thing when we try and transition who's hosting the mic and just always fuck it up. Anyway, you can watch our previous broadcasts on the District Comedy YouTube and Facebook channels or listen to them on Spotify. If you like us and want to support the stream, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you want to watch on district-comedy.live, we have donations enabled right now for the 2020 end of year fundraising campaign for Cinetic Theater until the end of the month. So if you want to see the little bar at the bottom of my screen fill up, or you just want to support the arts, consider making a donation of any size there, or bit.ly/Cinetic2020, which is on my screen, is also a URL that you can donate to. They both go to the same place. But today we have a very special guest, Ralph Anthony. Ralph Anthony is a New York City-based comedian whose material is primarily derived from his unique observations of the world we live in. A high-energy goofball with lots to say, Anthony was deemed the mouth by his childhood friends and hasn't stopped making people laugh since. Still, a lot has changed from his younger days in upstate New York, but Anthony's keen point of view and likability allow him to connect with audiences on a variety of subjects all over the country. During the summer of 2018, Anthony had the opportunity to travel overseas in Europe, performing on some of the biggest shows in London and Paris. His credits also include ESPN, the 2018 New York Comedy Festival, and was chosen as one of Caroline's on-Broadway breakout artists of 2019. And you can follow him on everything at RalphTheMouth81. And I believe your website is also RalphTheMouth.com,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Yeah,
That's
that's such a nice intro. Nobody ever reads your entire bio. That's fantastic.
I try.
Tom is very thorough. If this was occurring in person, he would give you a full physical exam as well.
Yeah.
Nice. Well,
I also try and fit it all into one breath, just for good measure. But
Yeah.
I'll start us off with the same question that we ask everybody at the top of the show, which is for those of the people watching who may not know of your work, how would you describe your sense of humor?
Goofy. I'm seriously goofy. I tell a lot of stories, observations. I don't know. I wouldn't say life's a joke. I don't know. I make fun of it. That's it. Yeah, that's how I would describe it. It's. I don't know. I could be blue. I could do family friendly. I could be whatever kind of comedian you need me to be.
So the goal is versatility, it seems.
Yeah, we'll go with that. That sounds great. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great opening question. Wow, like a deer in headlights, buddy.
That's how we go here. We ask the serious questions. But I'll just get right into some of what I have prepared tonight. But obviously, from the bio I read, you have a pretty extensive comedy resume, including the opportunity to perform in Europe. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Any unique stories or experiences touring internationally?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild how that story came about. I actually had I had met someone here in New York City. It was very random. It was a whirlwind of a weekend, and I could not let her leave. Like, we did not want that weekend to be the last time we saw each other. So I said, well, what if I came to London? And she was like, that'd be great. Let's do it. And so I started planning out this little comedy tour. So I would go to see her and then tell jokes. And after about a month or so, it turned into, well, I'm going to go to London to tell jokes and then maybe see her, to actually getting to London and being like, I'm going to go to London to tell jokes and then I'll just never see her. So that's literally how the trip started. I went to chase after a girl, and it just didn't work out. But I ended up doing I did 11 shows. Did 11 shows in 10 days.
Oh, wow.
and it was amazing. It was just amazing. They have some phenomenal venues out there. There's some great Facebook groups if you can get in. You get into the Facebook group, and then you just put a message up. Obviously, when we can travel post COVID, it's a phenomenal opportunity. London is one of the coolest places that I've ever told jokes in because they have a very dark sense of humor.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, yeah. It took me, to be honest with you, it took me a few days to get used to it. It took me a few days, and I was like, why are only my suicide jokes hitting? And fun fact, fun story. When I came back from London, I was in therapy, and she asked me how the trip was, and I told her that it was a little rocky at first, but I made it through. I had some great shows, told some great jokes, and I was like, yeah, it was pretty surprising. My suicide jokes really did the best out of all of them. And she goes, oh, you have suicide jokes, do you? Tell me about them. Turns out the biggest gig of my career was just sitting on my therapist's couch telling their suicide jokes.
Well, that's good. She gets a free show out of it.
Yeah, it was pretty wild, man. But no, it was a great trip. I loved it.
Oh my God. I have to say this because otherwise it's going to bother me. But would you say that those jokes killed?
I would definitely say that they killed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wasn't leaving myself out there to dry.
Well, see, I feel like the common conception is that like I'll give you a second.
I really wanted to say I wasn't trying to hang myself out there. That's what I wanted.
There we go. Okay. Well, no,
I was wondering with the dry. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Hang myself. Okay.
Dry. No.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say actually that that's the common conception of like a English sense of humor is that it's dry, which I don't necessarily associate with dark, but I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, they're a very interesting audience. Like they could be really loud, like any crowd that's having a good time, or they could just be like. And apparently you're killing. That is very funny, very strange.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
I
Well,
guess you don't even think about like the cultural differences between audiences until you really like have to. It's interesting to see how like that can affect your own gauge of how you're doing or not.
Yeah. When I went, the first show I did, I was doing some jokes, being from America, this and that, and I made a Tom Brady reference, and they all stared at me. They had no idea who Tom Brady was, and I was like, "Oh fuck, we're in trouble." And but I honestly, I will say that's why I love being from New York and really cutting my teeth in New York City clubs because you got really good at crowd work, and my crowd work was what helped save those first few shows. And that's how you get used to it. You start doing crowd work, and you're like, "Oh, you're just as fucked up as the rest of us." Okay, good, got it, fantastic. But,
well,
yeah.
why don't you tell us a little bit about being from New York and kind of it sounds like you got your footing in comedy from the New York City scene. So tell us a little bit about the scene.
I had started stand-up when I had tried stand-up before I moved here. I used to live in Albany in upstate New York, and I came down in February of 2012. I came down for a night. I came down on like a Friday night because I told a few jokes up in Albany. I was like, it's a lot of fun. I'm pretty much hooked on it, and wanted to needed to make a jump. I knew that I had to make a move right away. I couldn't stay in Albany. There really wasn't anything there, so it was literally between New York and Chicago. And so I went to New York, and I told jokes. I hit a few mics, checked out a few shows, and I was like, this is great. This is it. Boom. That was February. I took a promotion at my job at the end of the month and was living in Brooklyn by May. It went very, very quick. And So my first experience with New York, I loved these rooms. I realized how bad I was. I mean, I was new to I mean, listen, I was new to stand up, but like even some of the jokes that did well outside of New York just fell flat as soon as you get here. Like the level of talent that was in this city, it's unparalleled. Like you gotta step your game up. You gotta raise the bar. You never make it. You'll never make it. You have to grow. You have to mature. You have to really adapt and figure out how it is you want to tell your jokes. So, I was doing a lot of mics. I was doing a lot of these backroom bar shows, and also trying to work full time. So it was tough. In all honesty, it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I was working 60, 70 hours a week, 6 days a week, on top of trying to do stand up at night. And stand up kind of fell by the wayside. Like I would be on for a month, off for two, on for one, off for one. And that's how it went for the first like 2.5 years I was here. And then I found out about like barking for spots. It was all new to me. And I loved it because I was a sales rep by day. So cold calling was how I made a living. So I was like, oh, one, I get paid to sell tickets, and two, I also get stage time. So I would be I'd be in Greenwich Village, either at the Lantern or at the Pear, Grizzly Pear, and I would just bark for shows. I'd bark Fridays, bark Saturdays, and I would make a little money and get a spot, make a little money and get a spot. And that just went on for like, I barked for about 3 years. Or 2 years. There for about 2 years actually, and then I started producing shows at the Grizzly Pear, and that's really when I started to feel like I was getting my footing. Was once I started doing more bar shows or actual shows as opposed to doing mics. Mics can be tough. Mics can be really tough anywhere, especially when you're trying to come up, because you have to get up, you have to get that stage time, you have to get those reps in, you have to do the workout. But you need some kind of positive force to like, or something positive to pull you back, because those rooms.
Was it just because of the level of talent that you were going up with, or was there anything just like about the audiences where they like didn't want to laugh? Because I would think that being around sorry. I have another question in a second, because I just had somebody ask me they're not sure what barking is, if you want to explain that.
Sure. Barking is when you're outside of a club selling tickets for the show.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it helps bring people in.
But yeah, I was wondering, there must be an advantage too, though, to going to all these open mics and being surrounded by all this amazing talent. Like some of it must like pull you up to their level if you're not already, or hopefully give you confidence that like you are performing at the same show as these other talented people.
Oh yeah, when you're doing shows, it's phenomenal. What I was trying to say is how tough it is really just trying to do open mics when you're first starting. No, between bar shows and mics, you want to elevate. You don't want to be the weakest link on the show. You don't want that label. You don't want that at all. So it's you see certain people that are performing well, and you just have to elevate. You have to put more time in, and that's really what happened for me. I hit a point. It was around 2015. I was like, I can't take this. I cannot take this. I have to be all in, and I have to bust my ass doing this. And that's when work started to take a back seat, and I started to write more and perform more and bark more and just eat and sleep stand up. And I think it really kind of paid off. Stand up in New York is it's unreal. The fact that when you're coming up, you can get up 4, 5, 6 times in a night. If you want to, when clubs are open or rooms are open and you could start hitting open mics, it's all about quantity. You just want to keep getting up, and you can get up, 20, 30, 40 times in a week. And that is just, it's unreal, man. It is unreal.
City that never sleeps, right?
No, everybody's out telling jokes. Yeah.
So, like, in between those sets, I'm curious because, Tom and I come from a more improv background. Like, we both do stand up now, but
Sure.
our roots are kind of in improv comedy. And we think about like warm ups, like keeping our energy up over the course of a show. So, how do you kind of deal with it where, like, you go on, you have maybe a good set, you come off, your energy kind of drops, you go to the next mic, you got to amp yourself up again, when you get up there. And then, like, maybe you just like blow it that time, and then you're going to another mic and you got to come back from that. Like, how do you deal with that when you're mic hopping kind of?
I think I was at an advantage because I was a sales rep. I was a cold call rep. So I was used to getting rejected. I was used to getting no. Yeah, I mean, that I was already built for that. I didn't take it personally. Yeah, sometimes you get aggravated. Sometimes you certainly get annoyed and you spout off a little bit. It's frustrating. It's frustrating when you're trying to create and trying to hone a craft and it's not going the way that you want. You put in a ton of effort, a ton of time. You are investing your life into something that might not work out, the high probability. And so you want to get better, and the only way to get better is to get up, but you can't let it stay with you. You have to just mentally just shake it right off. You have to just shake it right off. You're like, all right, well, fuck it. That wasn't my set. But you have the only way to do that is if you record it. You record it, you see what you did wrong. If you want to get better, you have to fail. That's the only way to be successful. You have to fail. You have to be built for failure. And for me personally, just to keep that energy up, a lot of coffee, a lot of fruit, and a lot of weed. That's it. That would be it. I would keep my it's right here. Keep my little one hitter, and keep my little one hitter, and I would always have a coffee with me, and always have some fruit, pear, banana, apple, whatever. And I don't know. You just have to want it. That's the only way that you're going to succeed.
So in addition to I guess coffee or other stuff, would you make any adjustments to the set itself in between gigs?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it depends on what you're working out. If you're just working out new material and you're just trying to get it out and, kind of get the form right, great. If you're trying to, sharpen some stuff up, great. But, you audio record every set. I would listen to it with my earbuds in between, whether I was walking or taking the train, and you just sit with your little notepad. I still have the same process now as I did, 4 or 5 years ago. I listen and you make some notes. You see what worked. And sometimes you can find a little magic, a little gem in something that you might not think it went well, but you're like, you know what? You hear it and you're like, oh, well, I could say this, but if I just tweak this one little word, it literally could be one word, one description, one pause, facial expression, act out, whatever. And it could, boom, change the entire trajectory of a joke.
Yeah, and there's, I think, so many things that can affect, like, the pace of a joke, and then that'll affect whether or not it hits or how the joke hits, and it might just hit differently. Unfortunately for that piece of advice, I feel like I am just so turned off by hearing the sound of my own voice on recording that I could never do that. I could never do that. Was that something you had to get over? Or is that just a me thing? I'm just the only one who hates the sound of their own voice.
No. I mean, somebody told me, they were like, you just have to do it. And I'm very stubborn. And I'm like, well, we just have to do it. If this is the way it's got to be done, then it's the way it's got to be done. The hard part for that for me is when you have a joke that you're working out and you have to listen to the same garbage 4 or 5 times in a row as you're trying to work this joke out. That's the frustrating part. That's the frustrating part. Or when you video record a set at like a bar show or whatever, and watching yourself is 10 times harder than just listening to yourself, because when you have that visual, you're like, oh, I look fucking awkward. This is weird. Why did I do that? What kind of weird act out is this? Who are you? Who do you think you are? I mean, it's just a hurdle you have to get over, dude. But you got a good voice. Don't be turned. Nobody likes their voice. I feel like I sound like a moron.
Well, I am interested too in kind of hearing about, because you talk about going like full throttle into it and like, I guess kind of pursuing comedy more directly as a profession. And I'm interested into what that entails, because I feel like, at least from my side of things, as like, maybe not as a stand-up, but as a like performer, there's like the craft itself that's important, but then on the other side of it, there's so many other layers that people don't even think about, as far as like branding yourself, marketing, the networking, and all the administrative duties that, you know, people don't see but are super important.
Yeah, I mean, when I say you go all in, it's once your job is done, you're out. You're out the door. You're out the door doing stand-up. You're at a coffee shop writing. You're at an open mic working out jokes. You're at a show to see other comics. You're at a show to watch people you look up to. You know, I got to a point where I had built up this book of business where all I really needed was my cell phone. That's all I needed was my phone on me. That was it. Everything was done through our phones. And so I would leave work. I would just leave work early. I was like, you don't pay me enough. You don't pay me enough. In fact, for the last 6 months, I had taken a 20% pay cut before I ended up getting fired. And so when that stuff happens, your company will never, wherever you work, does not care about you, no matter what they say. Like, they don't care about you or your life. And I found this out. I had a manager. This guy was such. What kind of what kind of douchebag was this guy? Like that's what I'm not sure on the language sometimes. Whenever I do
No, you're good. You can curse or say whatever.
Yeah, I swear all the time. You're fine.
Okay.
Fuck.
Good.
Sorry.
All right. This guy, the guy that I worked for, was the biggest fucking douchebag I had ever met in my entire life. Like, he was like, if you took a lacrosse player and mixed him with a frat guy, that's what you got in my boss.
Guaranteed HPV. Just talking to him.
Oh yeah. You shake his hand and you need a penicillin. That's what you need. You need penicillin in your life. He sat me down in the office one day. This is around. I got fired in 2019. 2019? Yeah, 2019. He sat me down around. This was like 2016, and I had already made this shift, and like I was not at company happy hours. I stopped showing up to the office in the morning. Like I built up this book of business where I didn't always have to be there. And so knowing that I didn't have to be there, why show up? Like, I'm out there, I'm working, I'm producing. And he sat me down and he said, hey, listen, Ralph. Hey, buddy. We want you to have your own outside life outside of the company. We want you to have your own outside life, but we really believe in this work, personal life balance. We really want you to have that, but I'm going to need you to show up at the office a little bit more. Yeah, I'm going to need you to show up a little bit more. And I said, the office is an hour away from where I live, an hour away from where I have to work. So you want me to kill 2 hours just so you could see my face? Just so you could see my face to know that I'm working. And at that point, I was like, no, this is a power trip. This is a power control move. And I just stopped showing up. I was like, I'll see you guys on the Thursday morning meeting. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I would leave my territory at 3:00. I'd come home, eat lunch, take a nap, grab a coffee, and back out that door for 5:00 open mic.
Wow.
And I would go from 5 to 11, sometimes 12, probably 4 nights a week. 4 nights during the work week, and then Saturdays and Sundays was just, all hands on deck whenever, whatever you have going on. So.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And such good advice. Wherever you work, they don't care about you.
No, they don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for creative people, like, we're given this, like, speech from the time we're like children that like you are going to have a job you go to at 9 o'clock in the morning and you're going to leave there at 5, and then unless your job is your hobby, you might as well just give up on your dreams. Like, you know, you don't get to pursue anything outside of that. And for me, like in my 20s, when I realized, oh, I could just work to make money so I can then fund stuff I actually give a shit about later. And that's when your mind shifts to that, it might affect your work performance, but it's a pretty freeing feeling, I think.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Roz, though, because I kind of had the opposite experience for a little bit, just because there was a time in my life where the only thing I was doing was, like, various acting gigs or, like, being a teaching artist, which isn't the same as performing, but, like, making my living from art. And I found that that was actually, like, killing the creative process for me, because it ended up being, like, just constantly hustling, and, like, every gig that I got, it was almost like I couldn't, like, sit there and enjoy working on the project because I was thinking about when I was going to move on to the next project. So then when I got like normal job that was closer to like the 9 to 5 thing, I think the first job I had like that was actually something like 7 to 3, which for me was even better because commuting in this area sucks. But it wasn't until that kind of stability and like the financial independence that came with that, because also like that time in my life when I was like going from gig to gig to gig, it was still never enough to like make a living wage.
Yeah, no.
Did get to play twins that fucked each other and then murdered someone in that one show, though.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, come on.
So that, God, people
Do you
are
want
gonna
to eat,
ask
or
questions.
do you want to play fuck murder twins? You know.
So, yeah, okay, quick story. So that was Evil Twins on Investigation Discovery, no, or Discovery ID, and it was like episode 3 or something, just to like make the people researching on the internet make their jobs a little bit easier. But yeah, I played Greg and Jeff, and yeah, they killed each other. So it was very like weird and metaphorical too, to like watch myself on screen and like these series of scenes that have been cut together to make it look like I was beating myself up. Just like, it's like real life, but on the inside. But anyway, we can.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm in a mood today. But it's fine. We don't have to linger on that. But it sounds like a lot of making it in New York City, though, is kind of moving away from, I guess, what I had and what you had, which was the more typical job and doing the comedy thing full time and just making that jump. Or is there any room to kind of smoothly transition?
No, you have to make a smooth transition. This was not planned. No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
I was not planning on getting fired. Oh, no.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's all good. No, listen. I adopted this philosophy where everything happens for you. It doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. It happens for a reason. It takes away that victim mentality. And so when this happened for me, I said, well, all right, let's try to make this work. And so I did. And I made it work as best I could for 6 months. Then I went back to work for a little bit. I picked up a temp gig, and I did temp sales for 3 months. And then that ended. Then the holidays hit, and I said, all right, well, I got a little bit of money. I'm not going to work for a month. I'm just going to do stand-up, and I'm just going to write. And then we got into the new year. Then I got this job at a gym where I was helping run the membership team. And then Corona hit, and then here we are. But I didn't plan this. No, this was not, if I had to do this the way that I wanted to, I would have slowly transitioned out, maybe picked up another sales job, something of that nature. You want a nice little go-between. You can't go from working corporate to just working stand up. That is a financial jump that unless you have
A trust fund.
yeah, a trust fund. In a perfect world, Ross. In a perfect world. No, if you have, if you have 6 months of money saved up, 6 months for bills, a year for bills, if you have a chunk of money that you can live off of, yeah, it's a little bit more feasible. It's a little bit more doable. But, you're going to have some kind of stability. You're going to have some kind of money coming in from a job. There's no way you're going to survive. You know what? It's delusions of grandeur. No matter how good you think you are, you need to have some kind of supplemental income coming in to help offset some of the bills. Unless you're, some like comedic prodigy, unless you're a prodigy or you get picked up for a commercial or a show, that's the only way it's going to happen. Yeah. There needs to be some kind of financial transition. It's too much of a drop off.
Yeah, some kind of like base steady income for the dry months.
Yeah, or pick up like if you got some money saved and you don't want to necessarily go back to a stressful job, like I could have picked up some if I had 6 months saved or a year of money saved, I could have just picked up some bullshit minimum wage job that I didn't care about just to cover rent. That way I don't have to use my savings to help pay for rent. I would have loved to have done that, but that wasn't the hand that I was dealt, and you just got to make the most of it. So, so I went full throttle into acting. So I was doing background work, doing commercials. Then I wanted to get into some more significant stuff. So I just started an acting school, and I went from their summer intensive to being accepted in their 2-year conservatory, and I finished that up in May, June, and then we go from there. But now with COVID. Now with COVID, nobody knows what's going to happen. No matter what level you're on, we are all just in the same fucking fishbowl, man. We are in the same fishbowl right now. Oh,
everyone's working from a laptop now, which kind of evens the playing field.
Performance venue, so we're very much in that phase right now.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm happy to do Zoom. I like doing Zoom. It's different. It's different. But like with Zoom, it makes getting like 10 or 20 bucks for a spot so much more feasible because you're like, I don't have to drive. I don't have to worry about paying for the train. I'm not worried about, am I going to do I have a chance to grab dinner? You get paid 20 bucks for a spot. You get a cab ride home. That's 15 bucks. You got $5. What are you going to get? 2 slices and a Coke? Mm-hmm. Like that's.
Yeah. And that's like the whole thing too, is just because I feel like art is just like and entertainment is so undervalued in this part of the world, where it's like, yeah, I can get all these gigs and like half of them will barely cover the cost of like getting to the gig and like food for the day because you're going to be like on set all day. I remember when I did like some extra stuff, it would be like 17-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
And they would like want you on site the whole time, not because you were doing anything, but because they might need you to do something.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know if you ever. This was the biggest gem that I ever got being on set. First set I was ever on was for the Deuce. For the Deuce back in, I think it was 2017. It's either 2017 or 2018, whatever the first season was. I think it was 2017, and I got hired to play a pimp / hustler. And I didn't have this haircut. I had shoulder length hair. I had a goatee. I looked like I walked out of 1972. Like it was wild to look at me now and to look at me then.
I was about to say, like the haircut and the glasses doesn't read pimp to me.
No. But I like you still included me as a hustler. I like that. I'll take that. So I get on set and like it felt like I was in high school. Like they had these big lunch tables. I'm walking in. I have no idea who anybody is. They all know each other because they've been doing this. That background community, those background folks, it's like a whole nother world in and of itself. And so And so I see this dude with fucking army fatigues on. I'm like, there's something wrong with this guy, and I need to sit next to him. I don't like I like weirdos. I like freaks. I like geeks. I like the creme de la creme of the weirdos, man. And this dude was everything that I was like. This guy's gonna be great. He's gonna have some great stories, and he might also have some weed, and that's gonna make my day a hell of a lot better. And so we're sitting down, and we had broke for lunch, and we're sitting down, we're eating. And all of a sudden, this dude breaks out fucking Tupperware. Just breaks out these Tupperwares and starts dumping food into the Tupperware. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, in my mind, I was looking at him the same way I would look at a grandmother stealing salt packets or sugar packets. You're like, why are you doing this? Why? And he goes, listen, this is what you got to do. They're going to throw this food out. They're going to throw it out. Why not take it home for me? You think they pay us enough? And then I saw how much we were getting paid for the day, and I was like, oh, this makes perfect sense. So then I started equating how much food I could take home from set and adding it onto what I was getting paid for the day. And I was like, oh, this is fucking great. That's great. That's great. But with the way that I eat, I know you've never seen me in person. Dude, I'm 6'2", about 210, 220. Sometimes I fluctuate. Like, I'm a big dude. I eat a fucking ton. And when I get the munchies, it's a disability, man. It is bad. So,
oh my God.
With the food that I can take with me, that adds on like $40, $50, $60 a day. Because I've sometimes had the best food in my life on set. Like, I'm talking grilled London broil, fettuccine Alfredo with cut sausage in it. I mean, I've been on some sets where you're like, what world is this? Is Gordon Ramsay gonna pop out and start fucking making a lamb chop? Like, what's going on here?
Well, it's a big confidence boost too, to be like, oh, well, I thought I was going to be making like $20 for the day, and now I feel like I'm making like $70 because of all the food I'm taking home with me.
Oh yeah, with the pay rate, because regions and states, they all vary. New York is actually really good to do background work, and like that pay scale is primo. And you add in, for me, I would add in what they would pay me, what I would take in food, and I was clearing about $200 a day. I was like, this is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. 12-hour day, sure. What am I going to do home? Sit home, smoke weed, and write jokes? Come on. I can do that on set and get paid.
Yeah.
Good point.
That is great.
Oh, man.
So in this vein, okay, I have a really good story related to this, but what is the weirdest thing you've ever done for money? Like, to make ends meet?
I mean, I don't know. I think we have a very hot. I think your version of weird is different from my version of weird. Is definitely different from the audience that's watching.
That's true. That's true.
Weird for them might be a normal Tuesday for me. Like, I mean, listen, I've never done anything sexual. That's for sure. I've never been paid.
Wasn't implying that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's
also not that weird of a thing to do for money either.
For women, no. For men, yes. Yeah. Female sex work, that's a thumbs up for me. Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's great. Dudes, that's a little fucking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Although I feel like I've seen a couple of comedians online who have been like just doing their stand-up bits through their OnlyFans page as a way to make income. Like, they don't do anything sexual on it. They just tell jokes.
These are male comedians?
Oh, no, they're not male. But I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. Is it's like the lure to think that something's gonna happen, and then it just ends up being poop jokes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty fucking pissed if I subscribe to an OnlyFans page and I got somebody telling me jokes. Tell me some suicide jokes. God damn it, let's make this enjoyable.
I was about to say, unless they're really good jokes, but they have to be that good to offset the
Yeah.
lie that drew you in.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Listen, if I could get paid for an OnlyFans just to tell jokes, this is a bad economy, man. Listen, if Mitch McConnell don't get his shit together, Ralphie might be telling jokes in his boxers. Like, I don't know. We gotta make rent, baby. We gotta make rent.
Whatever makes ends meet, no judgment here.
Right? Yeah. No, I've never done anything weird to make money. I'm too much of a hustler. I know how to make money. I don't have to do anything weird. That's for sure.
Well, that's a good skill to have. But you
Yeah.
mentioned acting school too, and I want to get into a little bit of that. What
Sure.
kind of inspired you to kind of build on that aspect of your performance repertoire?
Yeah. I love it. I love my program. I can. When I met my teaching instructor for the interview to take this summer intensive, I was like, this fucking guy's gonna change my life.
Yeah.
He was just. You ever just meet someone and you're like, this dude, man, you are on the fucking money, and I knew he was gonna change my life, and so I did the summer intensive, and I saw how I'm studying the Meisner technique, so. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Meisner. It's really like, you getting on your impulses. Most people think it's just repetition and being a fucking lunatic. It's really not. It is, you are actively listening and doing truthfully in imaginary circumstances. And it is just primo work. It is a very hard technique to learn because you're on your impulses, you're out of your head, you're on your feet, you're in your heart, and you are just firing, man. You are firing on all cylinders. And I wanted to take an acting school because the first time I'd ever been on set, it was like, I felt like I was drunk. When I left being on the Deuce that day, in what is it, 2017 to 2018, something in me had changed. Something had clicked. And I remember I was talking to my father because we were filming at this warehouse in the Bronx. And I remember calling him and being like, you wouldn't believe what I just did for the last 14 hours. Now, you get a random phone call from your son being like, you wouldn't believe what I just did. And if you had known my history of my 20s and of my teens and growing up, that could have gone a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So
It's like, how much do you need for bail?
yeah, kind of. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was definitely within that little realm. And I just remember being like, I just spent 14 hours in a warehouse in the Bronx, not only in the Bronx, in the South Bronx, okay? The South Bronx is still one of New York City's last strongholds of what New York is. And it's very gritty. It's very New York. And I just remember leaving, being like, I got to come back. I got to get back. I got to figure out how I got to get back. I need to keep coming back. It was like the first time I ever did stand up. That feeling, that connection to being on set, to talking with other actors. I was like, I need this more in my life. Like I have to figure it out. I have to make this happen. And so just that first experience, I was like, all right, well, I got to keep getting on set. My goal was to get background work once a month. That was it. Like, let's just get a gig once a month and start stringing them together. And then that wasn't good enough. And I was like, all right, I need more than just background work. So, well, I've been doing this for about a year and a half. How can I get better? Well, I first need to learn how to act. And I talked to a buddy who's a comedian. And I said, hey, I know that you went to acting school and, you do a lot of these different commercials. You do some, some indie stuff. Where do you go? Where would you recommend? If I want to take an acting school, what would you recommend? And he told me 2 schools, and I remembered one, and that was a school that I enrolled in, and that was almost like divine intervention, like it was meant to be. And so I enrolled for the summer course, got accepted in the conservatory, and here we are. And it's taught me how to dig deeper into what I want to talk about. therapy also helps, but it's a lot with the
Right.
acting.
Yeah.
It's just being more emotionally connected. Like when you act, you have an acting partner, and in stand up, you also have an acting partner. It's the audience. It's the audience. The audience is your scene partner, and you are feeding off of them. You're going back and forth, back and forth. It's give and take, give and take. And if they give you more, then you got to give more. And it's just being comfortable and being yourself. And the one thing that Meisner has taught me so far is you have to be present. That's all it is. Stand up is just, you want to be present. You want to be present. You want to be focused on your acting partner. You want to be focused. You want to have a working, functioning, healthy instrument, and that's yourself. And you just want to be able to move and groove, man. That's it. It is. That's it. Now when I go on stage, well, before Corona,
Yeah.
I've had a couple outdoor shows. I've done some private gigs and whatnot. Having all this training so far, and what I've been doing in stand up, it's just this mentality of like, you just want to go out. I'm gonna fuck you up. Like that's just my like I am gonna whatever you think I'm gonna be like on stage, I'm gonna fuck you up. You're not even gonna see it coming because I have I wear tight t-shirts. Not by choice, they're just tight. They're adults. They're adult extra larges, but they just look like Baby Gap. I used to have the slick back hair. I got tattoos, and they have me pegged as just a broy bro, and I'm definitely not. And I got some stories. I got some weird observations, and we're gonna have some fun. You let your guard down. We'll have some fun.
That's awesome.
That's how acting has just influenced my stand-up, and it's been phenomenal.
Yeah, no, that's great. And the thing that I really like about Meisner too, or at least how I like relate it to my experience for performing, is like back to that improv background. And one of the like huge benefits of like knowing how to be present in the moment and actually listen and have those cylinders firing is that it really makes you very versatile.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you an advantage that I feel like some other actors who haven't trained in similar methods have, because so many times you either are in a play or on set or whatever, and something will change last second that completely changes everything about the scene, or you'll get new pages last second, and you just kind of have to roll with it, but still be your character and be within the world of the play. And I haven't gone and like studied Meisner super in depth, but it sounds like it's a lot of those concepts.
Yeah, and just one thing with stand up, you talked about being present and actively listening. It's you can pick up on the crowd, and if you can do a little crowd work, and if you're listening, you're paying attention, you're present, and somebody says something or somebody does something, and boom, you can capture that and riff off of it. Your set could just completely change. Like I have some amazing moments. I've had some amazing moments where it was just all crowd work. And if you went to my Instagram, a lot of it is fucking crowd work, because that's one of my favorite aspects of stand-up, and being in this class, really helped exacerbate that.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. I think stand-up comics, they need to take two things outside of just doing stand-up, and that is get into therapy and take some sort of acting class.
I will say that you mentioned something that I think it came up actually in our interview with Winston, but that is one of the things that I do not like about crowd work, is that it is basically a scene with the audience. Because that just makes me nervous, and it makes me nervous to do crowd work when like my potential scene partner is like wasted or like was supposed to see a band and instead they're like seeing an open mic or whatever the situation is. Like the uncertainty, I think, is a little bit scary for me, but I appreciate people who take it on as a challenge or an opportunity to, make something funny.
Having that sales background, having to generate conversation out of thin air really helped prep me for crowd work. And, I would, I could riff in between jokes a little bit, pick up off the audience. But then I got to the point where, like, I love to just start my set off with some crowd work. And sometimes it goes better than the jokes actually go. And, or it'll almost hijack your whole set. You'll end up doing crowd work for 10 minutes. There was a quote that I remember. It's by Bill Hicks, and he said, your jokes are what you fall back on when you have nothing else to talk about.
Damn.
And I think that's a phenomenal way to capture crowd work. It's wild, man. I did a holiday party once. Oh my God. I did a holiday party. They hired me to do 45 minutes, and they were so drunk by the time I showed up. Like, they didn't time the drinks to the appetizer to the entree. Like, they had been drinking for 2.5 hours. Like, they were aggressively drinking for 2.5 hours before. Like, I was supposed to go up. Like, they were gonna have a half an hour of happy hour, appetizers, sit down for dinner. I go on when they sit down for dinner. That did not happen. No, I went on when they were like, well, fuck, literally the conversation was, well, fuck, we got to get him to start telling jokes because we got to get him out of here. That's how I started the set. They're like, well, he's got to go. He's got to do his jokes because he's got to go. And you're like, what? So they were so drunk. They were so drunk that my opener, I had a buddy open for me. He ate it for 10 minutes because he kept trying to tell jokes. And I was like, oh, well, fuck, I can't jump on this grenade. So they had me doing 45 minutes. I did 37 minutes of just crowd work, 37 minutes of just talking to them straight. That was it. And after that night, I was like, oh, I'll never worry about doing crowd work ever again. When you have
that is immersion therapy.
It was probably about 50 or 60 people, almost blackout drunk, just belligerent. And you just have to do it. You're like, well, with stand-up, I look at things like this. It's like either this is going to be great in an awesome way, or this is going to be so terrible, it's going to be awesome in a great story way. And that was a great story. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that ended up being such a great situation, even though it had the potential to be also very volatile.
It happened for you.
Yeah, there you
for
go.
Me. That's it, baby. You got that right, Roz.
There's
Absolutely.
Roz coming in, circling it back. Great callback.
That's it.
But
baby.
we are getting towards the end of our little chat, so I do want to ask, what is next for you? What is the end game for your pursuit of comedy that you're looking for? Like, what's your goal?
Well, my goal is to be a working stand-up comic. I feel like anybody that does stand-up, that's their end goal, is to be able to provide for themselves, provide for their family off of their stand-up income. But it's tough to do in this day and age. It's tough to do in this world. You need to have multiple hustles. You need to diversify how you're going to bring in money. So ultimately, like, I would love to, this coming year, if the vaccine. I say if the vaccine gets out and it's successful, I would like to go out. I want to go out on tour. I want to go out on the road. Spend good 2, 3, 4 months just kicking it all around the country, telling jokes. But I think for me personally, I want to put out an album. I'm turning 40 in November, and so I want to put an album out for that. And I spent this quarantine, this lockdown, just writing. And I wrote one pilot. I wrote a pilot. I started a screenplay, and I started working on another pilot literally this week. And I'm taking a sketch writing course. So I have probably about a dozen sketches I've written already. So I just want to I want to touch stand-up. I want to touch comedy any way I can, whether I'm acting it on the stage, telling jokes on stage, writing it for TV, writing it for some streaming service, whatever it is, I just want to write and create and make people laugh. Like that is the end goal. And how I get there, any one of those little hustles is going to get me to that finish line.
Oh, that's awesome. And such a nice way to end our interview. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the little outro spiel, which is thank you everybody who was watching, who will be watching when this is like uploaded in the future. Thank you, Roz, for co-hosting with me as always. Thank you, Ralph, for being such an amazing guest. Again, if you want to share this episode with your friends, you can find it all on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, District Comedy. And you can also find us on Spotify. And actually, just updated it, so I think you should be able to find us on Apple Podcasts now too, if you're one of those iPhone people. So next week, you can catch us doing this again, and I believe that will be the 23rd. So we'll be having displaced comedian administrator Nico Lukov on the show for his interview. So it'll be a good time. It'll be a good time. Yeah. But thank you all for tuning in, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Woo, 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 woo.
Later. Damn. I wish I could say that those were just jokes, not a manifesto. I feel like
1 second. My computer. Okay, I think it did end the stream. Sorry. I just wanted to make sure that we were actually off the air before.
Yeah, I feel like I really should have addressed the jokes behind me and been like, this is not a manifesto.
It's all good.
I think when you send me the link, I'm going to have to say something in the comments right away.
Yeah.
I am not planning anything other than my next set.
Right.
I promise.
That's it.
This thing is just, like, I think my window just, like, froze. Anyway, that won't prevent me from ending the meeting, though, but, I'm just worried that, like, we're still live. I wish okay, it stopped lagging. Okay. We should be fine, maybe. Control-Alt-Delete. I just want to make sure we're, like, off the air before I ask, about the whole, like, show stuff.
Yeah.
No, my boyfriend said still streaming. Damn it. All right. Well, I can at least end the Zoom meeting. We'll have to talk off air about that stuff, Ralph.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
No, yeah. No, yeah.
Goodbye, take two. Hopefully
Goodbye,
this time
everybody.
it works.
Jokes, not manifesto.
Not a manifesto. He's.
For the third time, I swear.
If you're the FBI, just don't worry about it. It's all
No,
good.
it's still not ending. It won't even
Not
end my
ending.
Zoom
Oh,
call.
God.
I'm just perpetually streaming. What is going on?
Christ, we live on Zoom now.
We live on Zoom now.
Well, I am going to head out so I can finish dinner if that's cool. Please don't please
please.
put that manifesto joke on there. Please. I
We'll
really
do it.
appreciate that.
That'll be the one we quote you on.
Yeah. That's the last thing I need to get fucking canceled on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you so much, Ralph.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you. Please hit
Nice
me up,
meeting you too.
Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Tommy, I will. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Sounds good. All right.
Yeah. What I'll
See-
do is I'll hop on early if I can tomorrow, and we'll talk.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Later, guys.
I'm gonna have to like hard turn off my computer, so
Oh.